Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I want to do today is we're going to continue on this build, and first what we're going to do is basically full CRUD on an embedded relationship, and the embedded relationship in our code is hopes. So what we're going to do is we're going to create like the dashboard page where basically you have two choices, hopes and dreams, and then that'll take you to the page for hopes and dreams. So let's do that. Okay, and on that note, let's actually also create a logout route. Okay, so let me go back to my auth router. Let me actually just close all this stuff, clean that up a little bit. Let's go to my auth router. I want to add one more route. So this is my logout route. Okay, and then here we're just going to say app.get /logout. Okay, rec res, this one's going to be pretty straightforward. All this does is rec.session rec.session is just going to end up equaling I'm just going to say rec.session.user is going to end up equaling null. Okay, and then it's just going to res.redirect you back to the main page, where you can choose a login or logout again. So that's a thing. Now let's see here, I'm getting an error, so let's see why. rec.session.user equals null. Let's see what the error says. App is not defined. Oops, that's right, I wrote app, not router, because this is inside of a router, so I should be using router. Okay, and that should fix it. Good. Okay, so that's the logout route. And then I do also want to build Auth middleware so we can protect our routes. So that way you can only go to them if you are logged in. There's different ways I can do this. Since I'm just going to be using this within the routes folder, I will just make a new file here. And we'll just call this auth middleware.js. And we'll just say module.exports equals rec res next, and all this is going to do is just basically say if rec.session.user is truthy, because they've logged in, so there's actually something in that user property, in that session user property, then I'm debating whether I want to put the user object in there. I don't particularly need it right now, so I'm just going to say that's fine. We'll just hit next. And then otherwise, else, it'll just redirect them back to the login page. res.redirect. And that's going to be to /auth/login. Okay, and I think that's kind of clear enough. Cool. So basically, again, if you're not logged in, which means your user object is not undefined or null, because again, if you haven't logged in at all, it's going to be undefined because rec.session is not going to have that property. And if you logged out, that gets turned to null, so that'd still be falsy, but then it would push you to the next route, long as it's truthy. And if not, it pushes you back to the login page. And we've exported it, so I can import it where I need it. Wonderful. Okay. So let's go back to our dashboard page, because again, I wanted to create these links on our dashboard. Okay, and our dashboard we'll do is we'll just create a bunch of buttons. I'm just going to copy the buttons over from here, just change their URLs. And do this. Okay, and actually technically probably this should be an H2. Because again, there should only be one H1 per page, and technically we already have an H1 with the Hopes and Dreams title. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change these buttons. So this should be /hopes/dreams. Okay. Hopes, dreams, and one more button for logout. /auth/logout, and this will take us to logout. Okay. Cool. Save. Okay. Let's just check if that page is the way we expect it to look like. I should be still logged in, but I will log back in anyways. Alex Merced, cheese, and then there's my dashboard. Okay. Let's see if I log out. Cool. Okay. And takes me back to the main page. Okay, so that works the way we would expect it to work. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is actually start building out these pages. So again, we have our links to these pages. I need to create routers for them because right now there is no /streams or /hopes. So what I'm going to do is create a couple more routers. Okay, so I'm just going to copy my home.js router, copy, and just create 2 more routers. Paste. Nope, I think I copied the middleware. Yep. Don't need to copy that. Okay, I'm going to create copy home. That's what I want to copy. Paste. Rename this hopes.js. So that's going to be my hopes router. I don't need to bring in the auth router here. Now what I do need is I will need the user model. Const user equals require /models/user, and I will need the auth middleware. Const auth equals require /auth middleware. Okay, and then I want all the routes here to be protected in this particular router by the auth middleware. So I'm just going to say router.use auth. Okay, done. Okay, that'll protect all my routes. That way I don't have to like do them individually, because then that's the nice thing about putting everything in one router, because then I can apply middleware to the router, and instead of having to do with each one individually, which is nice. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Okay, that's nice. All my routes are protected, and I didn't have to add the middleware to each individual route because they're all bundled. All the ones I want to protect are bundled in its own router, so I'm able to just apply that middleware to the router, not to the individual route. Cool. Very cool. Okay, that's hopes, and let's do dreams. Copy hopes, paste for dreams. Rename dreams, and then the dreams router. I still want the user, but I'm also going to want the dream model. Require /models/dreams. Okay, and then we'll come back to dreams later on. Okay, but there we have all our things. Okie dokie, and let's see here, hopes and dreams. So let's get started on these embedded relationships. Okay, yes, so let's first start off with, we're dealing with hopes. So the idea is that when you go to hopes, we should render a page. So we'll call this hopes/index. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of have everything kind of run off one page. So that way you don't, I may still have a different form for, well, we'll deal with updating in a second. But yeah, probably have a different form for updating, but for create, we'll just do it all on the same page. So /hopes, we'll call it hopes/index, EJS. And basically in this case, this is a protected route, so we know that the user exists. So what I'm going to want to do is first get that user. So const user equals await user dot find by ID, because again we did store the ID in rec dot session dot user dot ID. We did store it in there. I mean, I could have had the session middleware added a separate property rec.user. I just decided not to. So it's like, I got these two things there. And I don't always need a user object, so I'll just query it when I need it. Personal choice. Okay, rec.session.user.id. Okay, now that I have the user there, and then basically I want specifically the hopes array from that. So const hopes equals user.hopes. And then that's what I want to send down to this page to render hopes. Cool. Okay, so that's going to generate that page, and then on that should be a form where we can generate a new hope. Okay, so we might as well just make that right now. Slash, and what that's going to do is rec res. Okay, the rec.body is just going to be what we push in. And basically, again, I'm going to have to go get the new user. So I'm just going to copy this line there. Maybe I should have done the rec.user thing. But, oh well. Const user, and then inside the user, we have an array called hopes. And I'm going to go push the rec.body in there. But then I got to make sure I update and save that user. So user.save. And then I can return, well no, I don't return stuff in Express, I need to respond. Res.redirect to slash hopes slash. Okay, which reminds me that even though I've made this router, I need to connect this router to like the home router. Because again, the home router decides where everything goes. That's the way I set this up. So I got to go bring in my other routers. So const hopes router equals require dot slash hopes. Const dream router equals require dot slash dreams. And then let's register those routers. So router.use. So anytime it's like slash hopes, we want to use the hopes router, and anytime router.use, it looks for dreams, we want to use the dream router. Okay, and let's see here, I'm getting errors, so let's see what the error is for. Await is only valid in an async function. Oops. So let's go over the hopes, and let me make sure I make these async functions. Async. Yay, errors for telling me what the problem is. Okay, cool. So that should be fixed. Yes, it is. Okay, and there we go. So that should do it. So let's create this page, hope/index. So I need to go back to my EJS files, my views. Create a new folder called hopes, because that's where that's got to go. And then I'm going to copy, I'll actually copy sign up because it already has the includes kind of relatively correctly. So copy hopes into this, paste, and then I'm going to rename this index EJS. Okay, and then I'm going to keep this, well, I'm going to keep that form there. I only want one input. We'll come back to that. So in this case, it'll just kind of push to slash hopes. So instead, it will make a post request to slash hopes, and the input, his name is going to be text now, with the new hope. So new hope, and the button should say create hope. Okay. And then here in the H1, that should probably be an H2. We'll say hope. Okay, and then we want to list hopes. So then what we'll do is now we'll finally actually use some EJS syntax. We haven't really used much in the way of EJS syntax up to this point. But again, remember I passed in hopes as a property to this template, so I can just do percentage for hope of hopes. Okay, percentage sign. Then let me just close this off. So for each one, we want an H3 with the hope.text, because again, each hope is an object with a text property according to our schema. And just to kind of solidify that, I'll go back to my models, go back to my user schema, and you see we defined hope as an object with a property of text. And user schema has an array of hope objects. So each hope has a property called text, and that's what I'm going to use here. Okay, and yeah, that's it. That's just going to list the hopes, and then here's a form where I can create the new hope, and that should do it. So I should be able to create hopes now. So let me log in. Actually, I'm logged out, so let me actually try accessing the page. It shouldn't let me. Hopes. So if this works, it should redirect me back to the login page. And it did. Perfect. Okay. Alex Merced. Cheese. That takes me to the dashboard. Now I should be able to click on hopes. Okay, and again, I don't really have any hopes yet. We'll say hopes, world peace. So I hope for world peace. Create hope. Okay, and there, that gets added. I probably want to make this hopes title a little bit clearer. Okay, that I'm using it. Am I using the same level of tag? H3, H2. So here's what I'm going to do. Class equals subtitle is 2. Okay, so that way that just looks a little bit different. There we go. World peace, and I can just keep creating hopes. Okay. Neat. Okay, so far I can see my hopes. I can create hopes. This is all wonderful and good. Now, let's make a show page so that way I can see that hope individually and edit the hope if I want. Okay. So we're going to make each of these hopes a link. So I'm going to also add this a href equals, and the URL will be /hopes/the ID. So percentage sign equals hope._ID, because each hope, since it's an embedded schema, each hope does get its own ID. So percentage that. Okay, close that. Now let's just wrap this A tag around the H3 like that. And now if I refresh the page, see now each hope is, and it just, again, I don't have this route yet, but wonderful. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. Now here's where things get, this is where embedded relationships start getting a bit tricky. Okay. So let's go back to my hopes router. Okay. Create our show page route. Always want to kind of have that one towards the bottom. Router.get /ID async recres. Okay. And then I just need to get the user again. I probably should. I'm almost at the borderline where I want to kind of create a middleware, at least for this particular route. I don't think I'm going to really need it for dreams, so I'll only create it on this one. So I'll just create a custom middleware right here, just so that way I don't have to keep typing that user line each time. Rec.user, and then I'll just write the middleware in line. So rec res next. And what this is going to do is just say rec.user equals, and I have to make sure this is async. Rec.user will equal this. Control cut X. Okay, so that way it just gets the user on the get-go. So now instead of that, I can just do rec.user. Here, I'll just modify these routes and just say rec.user. Because basically what's going to happen is that this middleware will run first. So again, it does the authentication middleware, make sure that there is a rec.session.user property. If that's true, then I can use that session property to go query the user, add this property to request, and that'll run right after that. And then that's the thing. Okay, that makes life easier. Okay, res is declared. Oh yeah, and then I want to do next. Okay, why does it not like that? Duplicate parameter name. Where do I have a duplicate parameter name? Oh, I wrote res somewhere. Which line is that? Hopes 35. Oops. Rec res. Sloppy. Okay, but now in this case, going forward, I don't have to like create this variable called user anymore. That'll just be easier. Okay, so in this case, what happens is I'm going to get the ID from the URL. So I'm going to kind of create a variable to hold that ID. Const ID equals rec.params.id. Okay. And then what I want to do is take the user array. So I want to say const. I need to find the index of that particular. I need to find the index of that particular. What was the word I'm thinking of? Of that particular hope. So the way I'll do that is I'm going to say rec.user.hopes, and we're going to use the find index method of arrays because it's hopes is an array, so I can use array methods. And I'm going to say find me the index item. Okay, and technically I'll say hope. That's more descriptive. So it's going to go loop over each hope and find me the index of the first hope, who's the hope's underlying ID number, okay, equals the ID that was passed in. Okay, so that'll find me the particular to do. Okay, and that'll get me the index of it in the array. So that way I can grab that hope, const hope equals rec.user.hopes actually I don't even need to do that, .index. Okay, and I'll be probably using this pattern a few times. So I'm thinking whether I should make that a function of sorts. Nah, that's fine. Okay, so again, what I'm doing is I'm finding out which index that is inside the hopes array. Then I'm getting it, and then I'm going to go render the page. Res.render hopes/show. Wonderful. And then there we can edit it if we want. So I'm just going to duplicate the show page as an edit page. Cool. Let me think here. Anything else I really want to do there? That works for me. And again, I want to keep show at, well, technically I'm not going to have a new or edit page, so it doesn't really matter if I have show at the bottom in this particular purpose, because new and edit's not there to get confused. So let's see here. Let me make that show page. So hopes/show. So let's hit copy. And actually, there's something I think I missed here. I need to actually send the hope down to the template. So hope. And again, I want to go back down here. I'm going to copy the index page. Copy. Paste. Okay, and this is going to be the show page. Rename. Show. But in this case, we're only showing one, so I don't need to loop. I don't need a loop because I'm not looping over the array. We just have one hope. Okay, and that hope can be in H2. I'll just keep it an H3 tag, but just say class, is title is 3. Okay, so there's my hope. Okay, and again, I passed it in as hope, so this all works fine and good. I don't need the link anymore because we're already on the show page, so I can get rid of the link. But now I do want the form here to edit it. So what I want to do is say, we'll make this a put. So I'm going to need to use method override. So we'll just say slash hopes, and then we pass in the ID. So percentage equals hope dot underscore ID percentage. Okay. But again, that needs to have the query after it because we need to use method override. Method underscore equals, or it's actually underscore method. Underscore method equals put. Okay. Cool. Method equals post, because a post is the default method, and then this will tell my server to override it, because that's what this middleware does here. Session override. So, or method override. What it does, it looks for this query, and then when it sees that query, it's going to just swap the method out for that. So in this case, going back to show, it'll see this method put, and it'll just change it to a put, which that's all I really want. Okay, otherwise, edit hope. And then I want to make sure that this hope starts out with the current value. So I want to use the value property and set that to be the current thing. So percentage equals hope.text. Okay, and that'll just make sure that the form starts with the existing hope. Okay, save. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now let's test that out. Well, actually, I need to make the actual put route. So let me go back to my router, and I'll just make the put route right there. Router.put to /ID. Okay, async rec res. And again, I need to get the ID, so let me grab the ID from rec.params. Essentially, I need to do this all over again. Okay, const C. So I'm just going to do that again, because I'm grabbing that. I need to figure out where that particular hope is in the user's array. The only difference is that I don't really need to save the hope. What I need to do is replace the hope. So what I'm doing is I'm saying rec.users.hopes index equals the rec.body. I'm replacing it. I don't know. Actually, I don't necessarily want to do that either. We'll probably have to replace each property one by one. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to have to do like rec.body the index and say .text. So I'm only swapping out the text property for the new text property. So that way, because the thing is that if I just replace it with that, I'm going to eliminate the ID property as well. And I'm like erasing the object. So yeah, embedded relationships are kind of icky as far as how they work. Okay, so I do that. And then I want to make sure I save it. So it's going to be rec.user.save. And then I can redirect back to the main hope page. Redirect /hopes. Okay. And then that should be working. I should be able to edit now. So now let me refresh this page. I should be able to go to world piece, except there's an error here. So the read property cannot read property text of undefined. So that begs the question. Console.log hope. Did I grab the right hope? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll this way down. I'm going to refresh this page. Still going to error, but now I can see the console log. So let me scroll up and look for that console log. Okay, it did not find the right hope. So let me see here. Where did I make a mistake? probably did not find the index. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna refactor this. So the end result should be return hope ID, all that. That's all fine and good. Okay, but I want to just kind of double check console.log. What's hope._ID and what is ID? Okay, make sure that this is doing what I think it's doing. So I'm going to refresh. Now let's look for the console log. Okay. Okay, so that looks like it's doing what it should be doing. So this is index what I think it is. Console. Because see, like, I'm console logging the individual hopes ID and the ID that we got from the URL. And see, those are, there they are. Like that's what I expected. So console.log index, is it not returning the index? It should be. So let's refresh. Try console logging the index. And now if I go down here, it's saying -1. Oh, I know why. Oh, that's annoying. Because technically hope.id is technically not a string. The underscore ID, technically it's an object ID object. Because that's what they did. So I have to convert that into a string somehow. How to do that? Let's think about this. Or I could do this. I could wrap this in backticks. And then just interpolate it, because that'll convert, that'll just kind of force the conversion to a string. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's see here. Yep, that did it. Okay, and then just kind of explain what I did here, because this is kind of like JavaScript magic. So what happens is that, like, technically the way Mongoose has the ID is that when you look at the ID, it looks like a string, but it isn't. Like, if you go to like mongodb.com and you see like the ID, you'll see it's like, it says like object ID and then it's wrapped in parentheses, because it's actually called an object. It's this weird custom object from the people who made Mongoose. They created this weird customized object that isn't obvious that it's an object. Okay, so the problem is I can't compare an object to a string. So I can't compare the ID to a string. But they did customize the object that when I access the ID, it kind of returns you a string. Okay, so that's by customizing the getter and setters in the underlying object. So I'm taking advantage of that and just saying, hey, I want to interpolate the ID into this string using backticks, and that takes that sort of return value from the getter, that string, and actually puts in a string instead of hope ID, me comparing the object. That's probably a lot more complicated than it really should have been, but that works. Like, not thrilled with that, but that's how we're going to do the thing. So that's the part I need to fix. So let me get rid of these console logs. Okay, so I can get rid of these curly brackets now and turn this back into an implicit return again. Okay, there we go. And now I just need to kind of replace this line over here. And now we should be all up and running. Okay, so cool. Now I should be able to like edit this, go world piece 2, edit hope, and it should change. Oh, okay, it says cannot post. That's not good, because that means, wait a second, let me try that again. Cannot post / hopes. So let's go back to this put. Let's go back to the link. technically that should have the, let me see here. I think I put too many quotation marks. Let's see here. Slash hopes ID method put. So yeah, that's what it should be making a request for. So why, let's try that again. Put, why is my method override not working? Because see, again, it's saying like cannot post. So let me try this again. Edit hope. See, that's the part that's alarming me. It's saying post. Okay, because that means the method override isn't working. And then we take a look over here. You see something odd. See, like this percentage 27, percentage 27. That's called URL encoding. So that's that means some other character sneaking in there. So let me go back and take a look at my code. See what other character. Oh, I know why, because I just changed that because I had the single quotes there. So I need to get rid of those single quotes. Okay, so let me go back here. Refresh the page. Now this should, because the idea, you don't use quotation marks in a query. So now this should work. Okay, so at least it's making a put request now. Slash hopes. Now it's basically saying that I don't have a route, but I thought I did. So let me go take a look at my hopes route. ID. Oh, I didn't put a colon in there. My bad. There we go. See, that colon matters because it doesn't know, that's how it knows that that part is like a variable. So now let me go back. And world piece 2, edit hope. There we go. See, world piece 2 changed. And if I change it again, world piece 3 changed. Okay, so we got that updating. Okay, that, as you can see with the embedded relationships, it's a little bit more complicated than I would have liked. You'll see like with the dreams, it'll be a lot more faster, a lot more straightforward. So let's just quickly make a delete for each one. So I'm just going to copy this, change this to delete. Okay, only difference is that instead of replacing anything, what I want to do is delete it. So what we're going to do is we're going to rec.hopes.splice. Then we start off with the index. And we're going to remove one item. And there you go. That should handle deleting and send them back to hopes. So there's my delete route. Good. That's done. That's it. Only thing is it's deleting instead of updating, but otherwise it's the same logic. Because it, just has to find that hope. So what I need to do is just add the delete link. So I can do that from index, or I can do that from show. Maybe it makes sense to have like a delete button in show. So we'll just have a separate little form. And I'll put this right below the other form. I'll get rid of the input. Don't need the input. I just need the button. And we'll say delete hope. Okay. And instead of this case will be method delete. And that should do it. That's it. That'll trigger the delete route for that ID, because again, the hopes the ID, override the method to delete, and hit this delete button. So let's try that out. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to click on the show page. Show page now has this. Now if I delete this, I should go back to the index page and there should be no hopes. That sounds sad. No hope. Okay. And it works. There we go. We got full CRUD on hopes. Okay, with embedded relationship. See, once we kind of figured out that object ID issue, then it's just a matter of doing that find index thing and life's okay. It's just that object ID type just always makes things more complicated. There is a way to like pull up the ID. You have to read like the subdocument information, but I don't know. Like embedded relationships are easier for like showing and creating, but then they get more complicated when you want to update and delete. You can't win. But with that, in the next one we'll do dreams, and I'll see you all then.